I'm going to start the recording. Great. Okay. So a very warm welcome to you all on this learning circle. So some of you have been to learning circles before and some of you haven't, and I'll just explain the purpose of a learning circle. So the whole purpose of a learning circle is to create a space for learning where we can experiment and learn from each other, and there's opportunity for me to learn from yourselves. And it's also an opportunity for those who've done NLP Prac or NLP for Leaders or any meta coach to practice your coaching skills. So there's that opportunity. So this is a space for that. And normally what we have is topics, a learning topic. So we've had learning topics of listening, empathy, stress, and building personal resilience. And we've had the topic of presencing. So each time we have a topic, and we usually try to have this learning circle every month. And for me, it's really a learning process, even just to prepare these learning circles. So it's a really opportunity for me to learn. So today we have a really interesting topic, and it's values-based leadership. And this is what was actually Nazia's idea. And when she told me about this, I thought, well, that's a fantastic idea. And I asked her to facilitate with me. And I think values-based leadership really distinguishes a great leader from a good leader. And when I look back at my journey, the times where I feel that I've really learned was when I was challenged to live by my values. And for me, living out my values really means that I'm striving for something really purposeful, meaningful, and something more worthwhile than the status quo. And for me also to define my boundaries. And I'd say that it hasn't been easy. And as leaders in your field, or leaders even in your family, we are always challenged to live by our values, where we're always presented with a choice, and which choice do you make? And sometimes living by your values means that you have to make some hard decisions, and it may mean that there are challenging conversations to follow. And maybe it's about building relationships, building new relationships, recreating relationships, and it can be challenging. So, and if I think about the leaders that I look up to, often for me, they are visionary leaders in terms of how they live out their values. So this is the topic of what we'll be talking about today. And the intention today is to really build a collective wisdom among us and learn from all of this. And we're going to do this in three parts. Nazia's going to look at some of these visionary leaders. And then we're going to be looking at some of your values. And some of you may have filled out the Google form that we sent out.
Yes.
Where we had a list of values, and there were some questions as well that that we gave to you, where you could actually try to define what are your core values. And then we'll be looking at what are the challenges that you face when you live out your values. So there'll be these three parts. So I'm just going to share my screen now. So can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So some of you know the systemic development model, and you can see that there are 4 domains. There's self-mastery, relational mastery, leadership development, and systemic integration. And values, personal values, come from the self-mastery elements. And one of the essence of self-mastery is for leaders to grow their leadership maturity. And one of the key ingredients of maturity is your value system. And that value system actually drive the way you relate, and that's the relational mastery, the way that you lead, which is the leadership development. And also it influences how you perceive your perspectives, how you're able to see situations in a systemic and integral way. And choosing your values over how people respond is actually one of the growth elements of adult development. And so this is what we'll be looking into today in relation to these elements of the systemic development model. Okay. So knowing all of that, what do you want to get out of our session today? In fact, you can just drop in the chat box, what do you want to get out of today? Knowing what I've said, and you can just put it into the chat box. So just welcome to Ariane. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Hi. Oh, welcome, Ariane. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm sorry I came late.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem. It's great that you've joined. Okay. So why are you here? And what do you want to get out of our session today? So just drop that into the chat box. Or if you prefer, you can just say aloud. Okay. Bruno says, learn more about what to do when you are conflicts, when there are conflicts in values. Yes. Nizla, self-mastery. Yeah. To have meaningful conversations with like-minded people and learn together. Lovely. That's lovely. Would love to learn about how your values can be integrated in my life. Lovely. And how to deal with conflicts. Yeah.
Bye.
Oui. Bye.
Christoph, learn how to learn from myself, from others. Natasha, how to have a clearer vision of what my values are as a leader. Yeah, absolutely. For me, to have the will and the courage to live by my values in all circumstances. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, lovely. Thank you for that. And you can just keep those coming and then I'll start. So Nadia, you can go on to the next section. Whoops.
So Wyman, I have the impression that we are falling asleep, aren't you? Maybe it's that kind of a day where we are. Don't you feel we need some movement here?
Yeah.
Yeah, some movement. And guys, I would invite you to stand up. Do you think you could do that? And I'm going to share my screen now and to invite you to follow the leader. Would you like to follow the leader?
Yeah, they are really asleep. Really.
Is standing up. Wyman is standing up. Please, I will invite you to stand up. We'll spend just some minutes following the leader. You can put your sound up and we'll see how it goes. Are you ready?
Yes, you made me go away from my dovet.
I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, go. Yay! So a little Zumba this evening to start the session. So how was it? Have you been able to move?
Warmed me a little
we-
bit. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natasha, were you moving on your bed?
I actually dropped off a sound because if I put the sound, the kids are going to all come.
Oh, it would be a family Zumba.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating. And my question is, Wyman is going to share screen now for the slides. Mike, I asked you to follow the leader, right? And we followed the leader. And my question to you is, why would you follow the leader? Anyone? Why would you follow the leader when people tell you, okay, this is a leader and this is your leader, this is your manager, this is your supervisor? Why would you follow the leader? According to you.
he might be giving us directions, like
Okay.
good
Direction.
direction.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Having a common goal, a common
Okay.
purpose,
Mm.
having a purpose, and and sharing that purpose.
Okay.
For me, there's acceptance that
Mm.
some situations there's a leader. So if I'm here, I better follow the leader.
Okay. So acceptance, there's direction. Anyone else wants to share why follow the leader?
For me, it's a question of trust.
Okay. Trust. All right. And did you trust me to just follow me just now?
Of course.
And you follow that leader, and people ask us to follow that to follow, leaders we don't even know sometimes. And as Doris said, it's a question of trust. And if we ask ourselves what leadership is, leadership, in fact, is on the next slide. It's a relationship. It's based on trust. It's influence. It's a process and not a position, right? This is a definition from John Maxwell, leadership expert. And for people to trust us, we have to prove ourselves, right? We have to prove that we are trustworthy. And people like, the people we are going to speak about prove themselves based on their values. So Wyman, could you put the next slide, please? We are now going to speak about role models of values, those people who really inspired us. And it's no surprise, but I chose Nelson Mandela, who's a social rights activist, South Africa's first Black president for 5 years. And he was involved in the anti-apartheid movement as early as in his 20s. And despite spending 27 years in prison, he came back with peace in his heart. He came back to dismantle the anti-apartheid movement and to hold democratic elections. And he was even awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work. And if I ask you, what do you think guided his actions? What would you tell me? Why do you think I chose Nelson Mandela, and what guided his actions? Because he even used the South Africa's rugby team as a way to unite the nation, and a nation which was divided and really affected by racism. So what do you think guided his choices?
His values for justice, for equity.
Yeah, his values. Anything else?
I think he had a vision for his country.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is the part which is really amazes me, is how he was able to go beyond the trying to get back to people, to have a revenge, but to really think in terms of what's best for his country.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much. It's really, you know, that and Ume spoke about fairness, and Bruno is talking about, instead of taking revenge, trying to repair things, repair relationships between the black and the white. Zainab is speaking about values for unity, vision for reconstruction, and as Moeman said, values are connected with a vision a leader might have. On the next slide, this is the question I was going to ask you, and you already answered it. What guided his choices? I think it's his values. And what, according to you, were his values? If we take a step back, and some of you already answered, but if we think about it consciously tonight, what do you think were the values of Nelson Mandela? Freedom. Thank you, Zainab.
I think it's a question of fairness as well. Yeah.
Yeah, fairness, integrity. Thank you, Ariane.
He wanted choice and he wanted change.
Change, yeah, absolutely. Commitment, humanism. Thank you, Ume. And do you realize that he spent 27 years in prison? And peace was, released. He was offered to be released several times, but he said no. He didn't even want to compromise on his values. Forgiveness, thank you, Ariane. Yes, I think there was a lot of forgiveness in the way he decided to, you know, the direction he chose for his nation. Thank you. And another leader which we think of when we speak about values is, on the next slide, Jacinda Ardern. So I don't know what you think about her. I chose her because she's young and dynamic and very inspiring. So she's the 40th Prime Minister of New Zealand, and she's very well known for her response, for empathetic response after the Christchurch terrorist attacks in March 2019. And even with regards to COVID-19, she has always shown empathy in the way she dealt with the measures and the way she spoke to her people. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going just to ask you to watch one of her speeches, a speech she gave just after the terrorist attacks. And I would like you to listen to her language and the way she addresses her people, and we can just debrief afterwards. So I share my screen just now, and we forget about. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. On a quiet Friday afternoon, a man stormed into a place of peaceful worship and took away the lives of 50 people. That quiet Friday afternoon has become our darkest of days. Mr. Speaker, there is one person at the centre of this terror attack against our Muslim community in New Zealand. A 28-year-old man, an Australian citizen, has been charged with one count of murder. Other charges will follow. He will face the full force of the law in New Zealand. The families of the fallen will have justice. He sought many things from his act of terror, but one was notoriety. And that is why you will never hear me mention his name. He is a terrorist. He is a criminal. He is an extremist. But he will, when I speak, be nameless. And to others, I implore you, speak the names of those who were lost, rather than the name of the man who took them. He may have sought notoriety, but we in New Zealand will give him nothing, not even his name. Yes, the person who committed these acts was not from here. He was not raised here. He did not find his ideology here. But that is not to say that those very same views do not live here. I know that as a nation, we wish to provide every comfort we can to our Muslim community in this darkest of times. We cannot know your grief, but we can walk with you at every stage. We can and we will surround you with aroha, manakitanga, and all that makes us us. Our hearts are heavy but our spirit is strong. We wish for every member of our communities to also feel safe. Safety means being free from the fear of violence, but it also means being free from the fear of those sentiments of racism and hate that create a place where violence can flourish. And every single one of us has the power to change that. On Friday, it will be a week since the attack. Members of the Muslim community will gather for worship on that day. Let us acknowledge their grief as they do. Let's support them as they gather again for worship. We are one. They are us. Tato, tato.
Okay. So, anything you want to share now about, you know, the way she addressed her people and the words she used, the words she chose? Anything that came up for you?
For me, it's whatever she said. There was no hatred. There was no words of revenge. It was all about empathy, love, and wisdom. And that's what makes her a great leader.
For me, she managed in her eyes to express the sadness of people, her sadness as well. And from there, she got to another rant where she was determined to bring a change, and a change for her people, and that her people would look for, and it's her together with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so Nazia's just dropped out for some reason. Yeah, and Ariane says the values are justice, strength, change, unity, and wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else?
There's also fairness, unity, courage, because she talks about not naming.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Sorry.
And I would say also authenticity, and she appears very sincere in what she's saying, and of course with lots of empathy and feeling for the Muslim community.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's proximity with that Muslim community.
Yeah.
She used their words.
Yes.
She
Yeah.
salutes them.
Yes.
In the Muslim way. And sometimes I think she used foreign words. I don't know if it's of their culture and so on.
Maori words, Maori, in New Zealand. Yeah, the native
so
language.
She speaks their words. She shares their feelings. She is with them. She is one of them.
Yeah.
Great.
So Doris says authenticity. Zainab, you can feel her authentic emotions. Corinne says determination, courage, and empathy. Yeah.
Thank you. And how how do you think this is linked to her actions? You are speaking about authentic emotions, determination, courage. If you know a bit of what she does in her country, how do you think these values are influencing her actions as a leader?
I think she has been showing coherence in her actions in different circumstances. So it's not only after this this attentat, even when she was dealing with the COVID situation. So she has been coherent, consistent in her words, in her actions. I think there is consistency, and this is important.
Okay. Right.
I was
Yeah.
going to say alignment, similar to what Ume said, alignment between our values and our actions.
Yeah. And now I'm going to ask you, we saw two role models, right? Nelson Mandela and Jacinda Ardern. And I want now to ask you, what are your own leader role models who you think are living out their values? So you might want to share who it is, or it might be people who are well known, or somebody you know in your family, or it's a leader of your choice. Anyone wants to share who is your leader, role model, and any values the person is living living in accordance with?
There are several people that inspire us in our lives, right? We have several role models, depending on what we see in them. For example, if you see a leader who's completely dedicated to his team or her team and working with them, not making them work for him or her, and this is quite inspiring. Seeing leaders actually take part in whatever is happening, not staying far away, come see, sitting on a throne, you know what I mean, and giving orders. For me, a leader is one who comes down on the battlefield and lends a hand everywhere it is needed and learns the skills together with his team.
Right. Thank you, Doris. Thank you very much. So leader is someone who's not sitting on his or her throne and is coming on. I love that analogy on the battlefield, that metaphor. Thank you. And anyone else? Do you want to share who is your leader role model?
Okay, I can share. So in one of your slides, or your first slides, you said that leadership is not a position. So I'm thinking of a colleague. We were a small team of 3 persons, and he was leading without having the leadership position. And even now, we are no longer colleagues, we are friends. And for me, he is a leader because he lives according to his values. And sometimes I don't share his values, but I have great respect for the way he lives according to his values. So leaders can be in a family, in a group of friends. And for me, this person is a real leader.
Thank you very much for sharing. And you linked up with the fact that leadership is not a position.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can be in any position, in any situation, and you are leading.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ume. And now we are going to ask ourselves, because all this time we spoke about values and leadership, but how about defining what values really are? So that we agree to a common definition of, because we are speaking tonight of value-based leadership. We saw what Nelson Mandela has been doing, Jacinda Ardern, and you have your own role models in mind. But what are values if we really want to get clear on that word? what you can type in the chat box, or you might want to share. What does values mean to you? Guiding principles for our lives. Thank you, Doris. What defines the way we live and act? This is very strong, Natasha, what you just said. What defines the way we live? Respect, being able to listen to others, empathy. Thank you, Ariane. Yeah, anything else? Guiding principles, Bruno, thank you.
And Nisra says core belief that drives us to take action.
Okay. And what I can pick up from what you're saying, I hear the words guiding, defining, more than belief. So it's like it's giving us a direction, right? And if we move to the definition, I'll give you two definitions of what values are. So I take the definition of Susan David first. We really like her definition. Values serves as a kind of psychological key to keep you steady. It's like a foundation that keeps you grounded, right? They are freely chosen. It's your personal values. It's not something that has been imposed on you. They guide you. They allow you to get closer to the way you want to live your life. And they bring you freedom from social comparisons. I think this one is very powerful, right? And these are definitions from Susan David in her book Emotional Agility. We would invite you to have a look. It's really enlightening. And do you see the picture on the left side? It's a lighthouse. For me, it's represented. We might have different pictures in our minds, but for me, it's really about guidance. And if we move to another definition of values, this one is by Michael Bunting. So values help people choose direction in their life that is congruent with what is deeply important to them, and establish goals supporting movement in that direction. It is assumed here that we mean wholesome values. That is, values that when followed lead to more peace, happiness, vitality, and well-being. Why did we insist on wholesome values here? Because values need to be ecological. What do I mean by ecological? It means that, people can have values that might be hurting their own health and hurting relationships. For example, a bunch of criminals might have values. Their values might be money, becoming rich. But is it ecological? That is the question. Or somebody else could say, oh, my value is beauty and I love plastic surgery. So is that ecological? So the thing is that when we choose values, we should ask ourselves that question of ecology. And to come back to the definition of Michael Bunting, it's really about getting direction in our life and supporting that movement. So anything else you would want to add to these definitions now that we spoke about, what values are? Anything you would like to add? No?
I'd just like to comment on one thing. It's from experience. I feel that not everybody have ecological. No, I mean the values may be ecological for them, but this is why we say people have different sets of values, because for some people their values is, for example, getting more money. It's more materialistic values. It's probably wholesome. They feel it as ecological if you ask them. but it's they are heading in a, let's say, different direction. So I'm just curious when you said that values need to be like wholesome. I'm not sure that it's the case for some people.
Thank you, Bruno. That's an interesting point, because Stephen Covey makes the difference between values and principles. Principles for him are, you know, these fundamental truths you can't shy away from, like honesty, justice, empathy. So he makes the difference between values and principles. Here tonight, we chose to use the word values in the sense of I mean, with the same meaning as principles, you know, the fundamental truths from which you can't divert. It's not like subjective values like money, and you know, you're absolutely right, because some people, for that, it might be justified in their mind, you know, to become rich and to become famous, and this is my value. You're absolutely right. So here the meaning we are giving to values is about these fundamental human principles that if you divert from them, you're going to get into trouble. Yeah, are we clear on that meaning?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And till now we have been speaking. Anything else anyone would want to add, Natasha or Corinne, about what values mean to you and what you've learned just now about, you know, giving direction and wholesome values? Anyone else wants to add to the discussion?
So Nazia, perhaps before you go on, so Don Beck, he wrote a book called Spiral Dynamics, and he talks about different stages of adult development, and each stage of the adult development is driven by a value system. So at the lower stages, it's driven by, you know, what can I get? Very egocentric. And for them, that's wholesome values for them. And as you develop, as you mature, these kind of values kind of like evolve. And it becomes more wholesome in our definition. Yeah. So that's how adult development happens. Yeah.
Wyman, Nazia,
Yeah.
would you link that then, the stage of adult development and the evolution of values with maybe the Maslow hierarchies of needs, as you go from basic needs and then to try to achieve?
It's the how you achieve it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's very interesting to link that to the hierarchy of Maslow. Yeah.
Because then you see, because for me, the Maslow hierarchy of needs is just not about the basic needs. It's more about the development of the person as he goes through different stages of life, and that's where your values also change once your basic needs are attained, your security needs are attained. So the values also change from one level to the other.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now we are going to speak about your own values, Wyman, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I'll do is the question here is, what are your core values? And because we're a bit running short of time, so I'll put you into breakout rooms, and perhaps before I do that, perhaps you can screenshot these questions that you can bring into your breakout rooms that perhaps will help you define what are your core values. And we'll just put you in for a dialogue for 5 minutes and 2 minutes each, so that you can just have a conversation about what are your core values. Okay, did everyone get that? Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to open up the breakout rooms now. Okay, so I'll put you in just for 5 minutes, okay, just to define what are your core values.
Wyman, you put me in one breakout room. Should I go?
Yes, because we're short of people.
Okay.
Would you mind? Okay, so how was
Deux
that?
minutes, ça?
2 minutes.
Ça gagne le temps.
Meta 2 minutes. Meta 2
You said
minutes.
5. I've been only able to talk myself.
Oh, okay. And this is it. This is a conversation to be continued. This is not the end of the conversation. Yeah. Great. Okay. So perhaps you can just quickly share what are some of the values that came up for you. Perhaps each of you can name one. I know I'm asking, that's an ask of just naming one. So what would that be?
Curiosity came up for me.
Sorry?
Curiosity.
Ah, curiosity. Wow. Nice.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Oh, lovely. Wow.
For me, I don't know how to put it in one word, but it's always make things clear for me and for others.
Clear.
Clear, yeah.
Clarity.
Clarity.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah. Integrity.
Mm.
Business says. Yeah. Doris?
I don't have one word. I have a few words. What my first one on my list is do what you have agreed to do.
Okay.
Which is like integrity.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Yeah. Bruno?
Yeah, I was sharing with Doris that at this point, for me, the first core value for me is to continue to unleash my potentials.
Okay. Continue to unleash your potentials. Okay, lovely. Okay. And Natasha put, where is it? Fairness, empathy, consistency, and integrity. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Colvin, did you say anything?
For me, maybe it would be rather commitment.
Commitment. Okay, great. Okay. So Priscilla, welcome Priscilla. Welcome to our session. Is she here? Okay. Okay. So did everyone share one? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go now to our next part, which is about obstacles to valued aligned behaviors. Our next exercise, we're going to ask you to recall a situation where your values was tested to live out your values. And what were the challenges that you faced living out your values? What were the decisions that you took? And what were the cues that could remind you to live out your values? And what other strategies did you use when you faced obstacles that allowed you to live out your values? And perhaps you can screenshot that so that you can have those questions when you get into the breakout rooms. And perhaps just briefly, just to give you an example, I don't know if you would like to share, Nazia, if we just one of us just shares.
Yeah. So Wyman, thank you very much for inviting me to share. And as Wyman said, it's not always easy. I mean, the next part of our webinar is about that. It's not always easy to live out of values. And Bruno just a bit earlier in his intention talked about values which might be in conflict. And it's easy to say, okay, I'm going to be to live out of integrity, and I'm going to be empathetic. It's easy to just say that, but sometimes we just can't. What are the obstacles that are on our way when we can't live our values? This is something we want you to think about. And obstacles might be in different form. It might be your emotions. It might be, limiting beliefs. It might be other hidden, hidden commitments. It might be so many things that that don't enable you to be aligned with your values. So the objective of this part is really to get you to bring back to consciousness. But it's not just about identifying values, it's also about identifying what might prevent you from embracing those values in your behaviors as leaders. So Wyman is going to ask me a series of questions, the same questions you are going to ask each other in breakout rooms, so that you can have an idea of what we want you to discuss. So Wyman, what's your first question?
So can you recall a situation that tested the way that you lived out your values?
Yeah. I studied in France, and at some point in my 4th year, my mom got sick. She got depression, and she asked me to come back. So, and I was really frustrated because I wanted to complete my 5th year, and I liked Paris. I wanted to have a choice to decide where I was going to live. So, yeah, that was the situation where really I felt my values were tested.
Okay, and what were the challenges of living out your values?
I was conflicted because I wanted to stay back, and I valued, my studies and all. But the challenge was really to think of my priority at that moment. Yeah.
Okay, and what decision did you take eventually?
I took the decision to come back. So I didn't finish my 5th year, my master's degree. So I decided to come back because for me, I just thought of what was more important to me at that moment. And it was a hard decision because you imagine I had a scholarship, and just to sacrifice it and to come back was really hard. Yeah.
And thinking back at what happened, what were the cues for you that reminded you of your values in those moments of that decision?
Because obviously I was not a coach and a trainer yet, but if I take a step back and I realize now how I made that decision is really I had cues that there were some things that really mattered to me. And one of my cues were my body sensations. So if I decided that I would not go back for just to stay back and complete my studies, I felt, knots in my stomach. I felt nervous. I felt my heart racing. It's as if my body screamed, "But Nadia, these are not your values. What are you doing?" So my body talked to me. And another cue that I felt, now that I think about it, is just thinking about long term. What is it going to bring to me in the long run? Not just thinking about the short term perspective. So these were the cues that reminded me at that moment to live out my values. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Nadia, for sharing that. Thank you very much. So now what I'd like you to do is I'll put you into breakout rooms and give you a longer meta time. So there'll be 10 minutes. So 5 minutes each, and just go through these questions and just reflect on how you dealt with those obstacles. Yeah. Okay, any questions before you go in? No? Okay. There you go. I'll open up the rooms. There you go. So Nazia, you can stay. Okay. Wow. So you're all back now. Haven't lost anyone, have we? Okay. So how was that?
Well, that was great. And Ume and I were chatting away about the changes, and then we were exited from our group.
Oh dear. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to do some harvesting as to what did you come away with having that conversation about how to deal with those obstacles of living out your values? What came out of that conversation for you?
You can't live without your values. Living is difficult without that.
Okay.
And in fact, we shared our personal experiences. And I'd like to come back to what I said at the very beginning when we were doing the presentation. In fact, I left my job because it was no longer aligned with my values.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So you can't work, you can't give your best.
Yeah.
If what you're doing, your everyday life is not aligned with your values.
Okay.
And Wyman, I would like, based on what Ume has been saying, I would like to outline something. It takes courage to live out of your values, because Ume, you left your job. It was a decision, but I guess was not easy. And it takes courage also to choose your values. Yeah.
You know, it was not easy, but it was not difficult non plus. Because somewhere it was, the decision was already in me. I just had to express it. You see, it was already taken inside. I just had to express it because my values were strong enough to take the lead, to lead me.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks. So it was the courage, and you knew it from within. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, the day when I wrote my letter, it was really a relief for me. It was not a challenge at the moment I wrote the letter. Whereas I don't have something, another job. So now I'm going to, I have been trying, but I'll continue to try. But it was courage, but it was my values who gave me that courage.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh, thank you. Thanks. So anyone else who would like to share?
Yeah, if I can share.
Sure.
Yeah. For me, similar situation as what Ume just narrated. I was also in a conflictual situation at work. where my reporting line and myself were not sharing the same values. And I also decided, that I have to quit because it was not aligned to my values and to my principles, and I was not at ease at all with the decisions that were being taken. And I can't take ownership for these kind of decisions. But then fortunately, before, maybe it's the courage that Ume had and I did not, or it's more the situation where, I couldn't move out without another job in hand. But then it's the reporting line himself who got another opportunity and he moved on. So finally things settled by itself.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, lovely.
But what I take out of it is definitely in whichever position or whichever situation you are, values is something that is very important, and you always have to live by your values, because then it's only then that you'll be aligned and I would say aligned to the purpose of your life.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So you're linking it to your life purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I remember I had a conflict with my reporting line once, and when I stood up to live by my values, I was shaking. I was shaking in with anger and with fear, but I knew that was what I needed to do. So yeah. Thank you. So anyone else?
I'll have a go.
Thank you.
Living by my value of curiosity. In fact, I had a conflicting value. My value of curiosity was conflicted with my family as a value for me as well.
Okay.
And choosing, it was not a choice of one over the other. At one point in time, it was the choice of making one priority, maybe in a sense of word, over the other for a short lapse of time. But that made the fact that I chose to live a value that was personal to me made me better to live through the value of family afterwards. So the alignment made me more authentic as a mother, as a spouse, as a partner within my family circle.
Okay. Wow.
From conflicting values, it went. Let's say there was an alignment between those two values then.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So just a note in terms of time. Are you all okay just to run over by 10 minutes? Is that, I'm just noting the time, it's 8:27 now. Are you all okay? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Thanks. So thank you very much, Zainab. So what I'm hearing is your curiosity, you went with your curiosity, but that actually paid off in the long term in terms of your family life. Yeah, great. Anyone else like to share?
I would like to also, I was sharing about conflicting values in a specific situation, and earlier I was talking about my value to make things clear, to put clarity, and I think that at the end, this value helped me to take a decision, helped me to have that peace of mind with my decision. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so by living out your value of clarity gave you peace of mind in the end.
Yes, because there was conflicting values. At
Yeah.
this point, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Arian's put living without them values is complicated. Living without values is complicated. Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, so slightly what you're, am I saying it's slightly what you're saying as well, Christoph?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. And I also think that we have many values. Earlier I was also talking about one value, which is evoluting. There's an evolution in that specific value with the experience you face with. Yes.
Yeah.
So that same value, yes, it evolved. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I didn't think about values evolving in that way. Yeah. Wow. So the same value that you perhaps you had when you're younger could evolve as you go up. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. So anyone else? Okay, so as I said earlier, that this this conversation will continue, I think, and then so I'll just hand over to Nazia. Nazia, you're going to share all this. So what next? So Nazia, perhaps you can.
Yeah, thank you, Wyman. And as Wyman said, it's just the beginning, because it's something, values is a topic which is very deep. And we are speaking about value-based leadership. So what's next is you know, we are thinking of organizing a values-based workshop this November. So to invite you to discover and embrace your values as a leader. So are you willing to live and lead from values which will impact both your relationships and your environment? Are you prepared to identify what might be preventing you from leading your people from your values? If your answer is yes, then join us this November for a values-based leadership workshop, which will be done online. And if you want to know a bit more about the content, what are we going to cover? So it will all be about discovering your hooks. When I say hooks, I talk about these obstacles that prevent us from living by our values. So discovering your hooks and your values will take more time to reflect about what your core values are. And this is about the first session. The second session would be about exploring those obstacles to value-based leadership to get to the bottom of it. And you might have, and we are going to offer you coaching sessions as well, because exploring obstacles are not that easy. We need to go to the, to the heart of things to discover what might be preventing you from embracing a value which you say is important to you. And the third session would be about anchoring these values kinesthetically and using different tools to really remember them and feel them. And the fourth session would be about alignment. So values are not just mere words. They are meant to be lived, to be aligned with how you behave with your team. So this is basically what we would be covering in our workshop. And the frameworks we're going to use are very much based in the work of Suzanne David, where she speaks about emotional agility. And Christoph just spoke about your values evolving. So I think it's also a lot about flexibility, not just in emotions, but in values as well. And we're going to also to ground our methodology in neurosemantics, as we are meta coaches and including coaching sessions and asking meta questions to you. And we've got a bunch of other authors from which we are grounding our work, like Robert Keegan and Michael Bunting. So we would invite you to reflect about, what you could gain from such a workshop as a leader, and not just as a leader in the corporate setting, as a leader of you. Michael Hall speaks about being the CEO of you, and that starts with your values, right? So we would invite you to think about whether this workshop would be of interest to you, and of course, contact Wyman if this is the case for you and your team, starting with you.
Thank you, Nazia. Thanks. So just to end this session, having a round of takeaways. So what do you take away from tonight's session? What do you walk away with?
Core values.
Yeah, nice. So mine would be, Christoph says, evolving values, how a value could evolve within you. Yeah.
Values are leaders.
Sorry?
Values are leaders. They lead you.
Yeah, values are leaders. Okay, lovely. Yeah.
And we can organize a workshop on value-based followers.
Okay. Wow. Okay, I love that. So Natasha, awareness of how my core values drive my life. Nice.
Mine would be how values bring peace. Again, from Christoph. Christoph, you have inspired me. You spoke about peace, and for me, it does ring a bell. Living by your values make you feel at peace. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So Nizla, I haven't heard your voice.
For me, it's true that the most important thing is that values is a main driver for us in our daily life, in our daily life when it comes to what we do, what are the decisions we take, and what are the action we take.
Okay, great, thank you. So Arya, go ahead, Zainab. Is it Zainab?
Yes, I'm here. For me, it would be values as drivers towards alignment.
Nice. So Aryan said, alignment of my values with my actions and my behaviors. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Natasha. I hope you can join again soon. Thank you. Okay, so Corinne, your takeaway?
The alignment of my core values with my personal values and the professional values.
Yeah, okay, personal, professional. Yeah. Great. Right. Yeah. Doris? Oh, you're unmuted.
I see a correlation between our core values and the changes happening in our life. And if we don't go with the changes that the values are causing to happen, then we don't have peace of mind. So we need to follow our heart.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And Priscilla?
Yeah, I think for me as well, I would say alignment of core values with your purpose of life, which then gives you the peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah. Alignment to purpose, life purpose, that then gives you peace of mind. Yeah, oh, lovely. Yeah, thank you. So has everyone spoken? I haven't missed anyone. No? Okay, so thank you. So a big thank you from me. I've really gained loads of learnings from all of you. Thank you for sharing. And Nazia, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I would like to thank you for your time and for sharing a bit of you, a bit of your story, because we trainers, we grow. It's not just, it's a question of give and take and sharing. We are not teaching you anything. It's about, like Wyman said, collective wisdom. So thank you for sharing a bit of your wisdom with us tonight.
Yeah, great. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you soon on one of our sessions. In September, we are thinking of doing perhaps a sensory-based learning circle, and we're actually thinking of doing it walking in a park somewhere. So I'll keep you updated on that one. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for giving up your time and spending this with us this evening. And I hope you have a pleasant rest of this week and keep safe. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Nazia,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye. Thank you.